daha çok şey yok yani. Öyle konuştuk. Başka bir şey yaptık.
İyi bence abi böyle. Aynen patlıyor, hatta kıstım ben biraz kendim.
Böyle kalsın senin.
Değerli misafirler, oturumumuza başlıyoruz. Dear guests, we are starting our forum. Please take your seats. Thank you.
Dear participants, we are starting. I would glad if you can sit.
Dear guests, we are starting our forum. Please take your seats. Thank you. Dear guests, we are starting our forum. Please take your seats. Thank you. Sevgili misafirler, oturumumuza başlıyoruz. Lütfen yerlerinize geçiniz. Teşekkürler.
Kenarda koymuşlar bir tane. Kadın görünmüyor. Birazdan bir şey etsem.
Dear distinguished guests, welcome back after the refreshing coffee break. I hope you enjoyed it. And it's a pleasure to kick off our panel discussion. I am delighted to introduce our esteemed moderator, Ms. Ayşe Güçlü Onur. She is the office leader at Egon Zender, Turkey, and our panelists, Mr. Eric Schwarz, Head of International Affairs, the Swiss Federal University for Vocational Education and Training, SUFUVET, Dr. Ms. Aybike Mergen, Assistant Professor at Özyeğin University, Mr. Leszek Monjic, CEO of Nestle Turkey. Welcome again. Before we begin our panel session, allow me to provide a brief overview of our moderator's impressive background. Ms. Ayşe Güçlü Onur is the office leader of Istanbul at Egon Zender, specializing in financial services and private equity. With a strong background in talent management, she is also involved in diversity initiatives. She holds an MBA from Duke University and is active in TÜSİAD and Endeavor Turkey. Additionally, she co-founded Yeniden Biz to support women re-entering the workforce. She is also a board member of our chamber, Swiss Chamber of Commerce in Turkey, and also a proud mother of 2 young children. We are honored to have her guide today's panel, and Ayşe Hanım, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Eda Hanım. Thank you, dear guests, dear excellencies. It's a great pleasure to be hosting this panel with you today. Thank you to Eda Hanım for talking about me in such an impressive fashion. I hope I can do the same for my moderators. Let me actually start by introducing the panelists. Let's start with Mr. Eric Schwartz. Here on my left. As Eda Hanım mentioned, thank you for coming here, Eric, by the way, and for being with us today. He's the head of international affairs for Swiss Federal University's Vocational Education and Training, SUVFET, and he actually designs vocational training and education along with many partners internationally. Including, for example, organizations such as International Labor Organization, the Global Apprenticeship Network, UNESCO, etc., etc. So it's such a pleasure to have you here with us, Eric, and we'll love to hear your perspectives on how we'll shape the future together with the support of vocational education. I go then to sevgili Aybike Mergen. She's an assistant professor at Özyeğin University. She's a social sciences scholar with a focus on leadership, audience dynamics, and decision-making processes. And as we just learned, she was the student of Deniz Hocam previously. So the world is small. She also impressive academic background, 2 master's degrees, Master of Science in Economics from Tilburg University and Master of Arts in Political Science from Sabancı University. Prior to her academic career, she also had a stint in the private sector by working at Ernst & Young and Deloitte, so it's great that she brings both perspectives into the room. And last but not least, Mr. Leszek Watchers. I always have a Watchers. Almost perfect, okay? He's the CEO of Nestle Türkiye, and he's a fellow board member at the Turkish-Swiss Chamber, along with me. He has 30 years of experience in Nestle, working across many different geographies, including Poland, Romania, and again, least but not least, now in Turkey. But he says he enjoys Turkey the most, right? Yes. And you know, knowing him, he has a passion for leadership, he has a passion for developing talent, and he brings a very strong blue chip multinational leadership and talent perspective to the panel. So welcome again.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. So today we're going to talk about actually how do we shape the future given there's so much uncertainty in this world. And I'm going to start with a question for the audience actually. How many people in the audience have kids that are in primary school or have not started primary school yet? So small kids, young kids. I see. Yeah, me too, by the way. All right, so for those of us, I have an 8-year-old as well. For those of us, we don't know which professions, which jobs 65% of our kids will work at. We have no idea because those jobs, those professions have not yet been invented. Similar to what Deniz Hocam said, we just don't know. So how are we going to prepare the youngsters, the young talent, for a future that we don't really know how it's going to shape? To give some historic context for this, in the 1800s, in the US, 90% of the population worked in agriculture. Any guesses to how much percent it is right now? Again, from the audience, 90% now? 2%. Right now, it's 2% of the workforce in the US now work in agriculture. This is how things changed in the last 200, 250 years. So imagine how they're, and now we have AI, ChatGPT, etc. So it's going. So how do we, again, in the past, you know, we as people depended on our physical strength in the really ancient times, right? In order to get food, you had to have physical strength. Then we started developing, you know, certain tasks, activities, etc., where IQ and skills became important. And then the Industrial Revolution hit, and we were introduced to a term called competency. What's a competency? It's a person's, it's an executive's ability to do certain things a certain way. For example, team leadership. How do you lead a team? How do you lead a herd, right, in the past? How do you lead a team? So competencies became important. Competencies like whether you can think strategically, whether you're results-oriented, whether you're hardworking, etc. Now, that's also not enough. We need to think about something else, because you may have developed your competencies, but if you don't have the potential for the future, you may still get stuck, such as the example that Deniz Hocam gave, you know, about the person who was editing the reports, right? So, you know, that person probably has the competencies that the profession needs, but he needs to, if he wants to evolve his career, evolve himself in a certain way, he needs to bring in his potential. So before I say much, with that sort of vision and introduction, I want to turn to my dear panelists, and I want to start with Aybike Hanım, ladies first. The question we're looking for is, in this world of constant change, where we don't have a lot of visibility, what are the critical competencies or potential elements that one will need to survive, and what's AI's role in this?
Thank you, Ayşe Hanım, for the question. I'm very happy to be here, and thank you for inviting me to this important panel. As a leadership scholar, I think I should start with what do we mean when we say someone is a leader. So, evolutionarily, humans to cooperate together, to achieve things together in large groups, we have developed the social phenomena, mechanisms, to bring those people together and motivate them and coordinate their efforts to achieve a common goal. And leadership is actually one of the most fundamental social mechanisms that we have developed. So when we talk about a leader, of course we are talking about capabilities, competencies such as decision making, risk assessment, taking the risk at the right time, right? But we also talk about the ability to make sure that we are talking to a group of people, how small or large, right? And merge their visions, provide them with a vision that will motivate them to work together, perhaps more than they want to, right, to achieve a common goal. So when we are thinking about leadership, for a long time, since the Industrial Revolution, starting with the first management consultants like Taylor, we have been thinking about measurable hard skills, right? But the reality is that even today, right, let alone the future, where like Deniz Hocam has explained so perfectly, where we will have personal assistants to help us make decisions, to assess risks, to have this data analyzed that is surrounding us, the big data that everybody is talking about. There will be assistants to help us, but we will still need the people who will create that group identity and make people want to spend effort to achieve some common goals. So, starting from that point, I think that we should be looking at what makes people leaders, right, in that sense. So when you think about, I always give the example of Caesar. People who know me better are a little sick of it, but You can think about Caesar as the person who decided to cross the Rubicon at exactly the moment that he needed to. You can also think about him as the person who thought about the logistics of war even more than the tactics that he's using, right? To take care of the planning for uncertain, changing environments. But you should also think about Caesar as the person whose soldiers were willing to take extraordinary steps. In times of crisis, in times when they feel like they are cornered, his soldiers were the people who backed him up, said that, okay, take the next step, we are right behind you. In leadership literature, it has been recently acknowledged that you cannot be a leader if you do not have followers. Because for decades, we have been thinking about leadership only in terms of the leader, him or herself, not as some sort of a social phenomenon. But in reality, we see today, think about all the leaders that you think about not as managers, but leaders, you will think of them as a guiding figure for a group of people, right? People who, the significant individuals who have been followed by others, hopefully in great numbers. So what should we take away from this understanding of leadership as we look forward? I think one of the main points is that both in designing our leadership development programs and our organizations in the future, as we have all, I think, aware of right now after the amazing keynote talk, if not earlier, we are moving into a territory where most of the stuff that we have been doing will be null, right? Accounting or note-taking, most of the meetings that we have, they will become not necessary in a way. I think McKinsey has a recent report that says in 5 or 6 years, 30% of the tasks that we are doing right now in our organizations will not be performed anymore. But what will remain are, as all of us have been discussing, will be the creative jobs, will be the things that take that human essence, right? That nick that only the humans have at that point of time, until the AI is able to do that as well. But in any case, what remains are exactly the jobs that actually needs the human that is executing it to believe in it, right? To be more creative, to be creative, you need to believe in what you are doing is worthwhile. So to have people doing that creative jobs that takes what only a human can do, we need to be able to create this group identity, a willingness to participate. And to do that is to move away from some sort of this transactional leadership that we enforce in our organizations today. Right? It is about controlling. It is about checking what is being done, quality control of the work that is being done, all these meetings to follow up what is being done. Right? When all of this is unnecessary, we will need to move on to transformational leadership. And we have been talking about transformational leadership for perhaps 3 decades now, but we do not really understand what it means, because we want to have measurable key metrics in our organizations, right? We want to be able to measure 5 times this month or 6 times this month, achieve 90% of the goal. But you cannot measure this soft skills, even the name itself has a negative connotation, right? But about trust, empathy, the things that really make us connect as humans. There are great studies in sociology, in organizational psychology that explains us, tells us, shows us definitively that trust is actually, among the group members, is actually more effective, one of the key driver of performance in organizations. But the way we create the organizations is around cost cutting, right? Effectiveness in terms of measurable, hard deliverable key metrics. So once you create these organizational structures and emerge the leaders that can achieve the goals only in those, based on those performance in key metrics, measurable key metrics, then we do not actually provide the space for organizational leaders to have this effect on their human group members. Okay? So once we need to, I think looking at the future, in terms of uncertainty, people need this kind of human connection, the trust, the empathy more. As we get more uncertain about what is going to happen, who am I in this changing environment, we need some sort of an identity to hold on to so that we can sail these uncertain seas. And in organizations, to give the employees that are remaining, that we expect these creative outputs from, we need to be able to provide them this space. To do that, I think that we need to focus on, of course, decision making, risk assessment, analytical thinking. These are always crucial. But as AI takes over more and more, and with the O1, I have to tell you that I sometimes, in the last week, we got so used to each other that I get a little disappointed when it takes like 2-3 seconds for it to think, because I feel like I disappointed the AI. It didn't give him or her, I think not enough, like a complicated question to keep it busy. But it becomes better and better in this hard skills in that sense. So we need to really consider what we are developing in our leaders. We need to improve our leadership trainings in terms of creating empathy, in terms of fostering an environment where individuals feel safe and bond and build trust. If I have time, one more point is that I don't want to overstep my boundaries, but at least at this moment, what AI does not have is an individual perception, a perspective that we all have, right? Because we acquire data sequentially. We are born, we are raised in an environment. Everything we learn builds upon itself and cognitively based on the schemas that we have developed previously on our previous experiences. So that perspective is of a great value for our creativity, the stuff that we expect from humans. For humans to work together and become better in doing what humans do, we actually need to have diverse perspectives at the table so that they can interact. This is what the AI does not have, and our leaders should be focused on providing the space for this individualized perspectives to shine and collaborate. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So I heard a lot about, when we think about potential at Egon Zehnder and in the leadership world, we talk about a few elements like I mentioned, and what you said, Aybike, really underlined engagement, like really engaging with people, showing empathy and building trust. And also you spoke a lot about creativity, having an individual perspective, which requires a lot of curiosity. So those two words are sort of in my mind. And with that, Sayın Leşek.
The same, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for the invitation. It's my great pleasure. You can think that after 30 years working for one company, and that for the company who is present globally since 158 years, and the company who is present in Turkey since 116 years, we know everything. No, we don't. We don't. I am not an arrogant person. I even, I don't dare to say that I know things. I'm learning, and I'm learning all the time. I think the topic is extremely important. I don't know what to add after your speech. But again, from my perspective, we talk about future, but future happened yesterday. Today, it's accelerating. The train is running. And we talk about leaders, we talk about leadership. Again, this is my perspective. Time of bosses, it's almost at the end. Because young people, young like you, young gentlemen, we just had the interaction, will not follow bosses in the future. Being a boss is easy. You order, people do. Yes? But when you are leader, as a boss, people do or not. But when you are leader, people will follow. But to be a leader, you need to give more than boss is giving. Boss is giving orders, recognitions, and sometimes is correcting behaviors. But the leader is different. We have millions of new generations joining the market. Me personally, I believe in education. Me personally, I believe strongly in leadership. And I strongly believe in NI as well, on the top to AI. Natural intelligence, it is something which created artificial intelligence. Still, I believe in NI and the proper combination of NI and AI. I believe as well in purpose. I believe as well that not only IQ is important. Today, IQ will not solve the problems, but EQ, blended with IQ, can do it. Emotional intelligence is extremely important. Example of last year. Dramatic, tragedy for an entire country. How to lead during such a difficult times like earthquake? How to behave? To use what? IQ? To be a boss? No. IQ will not work, but EQ will. Empathy, you were referring to empathy. You were referring to emotions. The world is changing, world is dynamic. It must be always blend of empathy, IQ, NI, AI, and not being boss, to be a leader. Again, is it easy to be a leader? No, it's not. You have to give. You have to leave your room. Hopefully, you have to give up with your beautiful office, and you have to come to your teams. I'm repeating several times to my teams that I don't have only, let's say, the board of Nestle reporting to me. I have here in Turkey 3,000 people reporting to me. 3,000 people directly and 7,000 indirectly. This is my team. Yes? Is it easy? No, it's not. I'm permanently busy, but I'm not busy with the PowerPoints. I'm busy with 3D presentations. I go, I talk, I touch, I understand, I support as much as I can. You know, I used to work in 12 countries. The most challenging one, the job for me, was my previous job when I was in charge of Bulgaria, Romania, and Adriatics, 9 in total countries. You can imagine the blend of cultures, of emotions, you know? Even if I'm working with the hundreds of different nationalities, I discover something, kind of a scientific discovery. We are the same. We are the same. We can have some differences. Yes, I'm from Poland, yes. I find a lot of similarities to Turkey. We have friends who are living in the Turkish friends who are living in Poland, and we have Polish friends living here in Turkey. We have the same. We can have some different, let's say, aspects of our life, but the values in majority are the same. All of us, we love the families. All of us, we have families. Majority, we have kids. If not, we have kids in neighborhood. We love them. We have the same values. We have the same dreams. We are human beings. Now, it's easy to be a leader within such a, if you are leader, it's easy to be and to work with such a communities because you are the same. You don't play. You know, being boss, let's say, being boss in China and being boss in Poland are two different type of bosses. But in both cases, people will not, especially young people, will not follow bossy guys. I don't know who from you is here the boss, but if we talk about shaping future leaders, I strongly recommend to rethink the stories, the way we are leading, the way we are managing, the way we are engaging, and to use more empathy, more emotional intelligence. This is what I strongly believe. And on the top, let's use the smart tools we have available. And I'm really, Mr. Professor, I'm absolutely I'm absolutely impressed by your presentation. And use smartly tools which life is giving us in so rapid and dramatic speed of time. Well, short, yeah?
Yeah, no, it was very good. Exactly like 8.5 minutes, actually.
Wow.
So perfect.
Especially the clock is not working.
I know. Well, it's I still have the big clock, so it's not working. Yeah, it's fine though. I can still follow. Yes. So, dear Eric, we would love to hear your perspective on this.
Yeah, thank you very much. First of all, thank you very much for the invitation. It's really a pleasure also to be here. And yeah, I think first of all, I would like to emphasize that we should not panic. Everywhere we see, 60% of the jobs will disappear and new skills there and so on. I think we already, as the professor mentioned also, in the last years, in the last decades, there has been also already change. And for example, in Switzerland, we have 250 recognized professions in vocational education and training. And actually there are only maybe 1 or 2 per year that disappears or that appears. Of course there is an adaptation of the skills and of the curricula, but yeah, I think don't panic. Don't panic. So as a representative of the Swiss Federal University for Vocational Education and Training, so I would like to open a bit the scope of the question and not focus on leaders, but generally speaking, and the employees. And I think also the last years there is a bit of hype of these soft skills, transversal competencies, 21st century competencies. Of course, they are important. And yeah, I would like to answer according also to a study that OECD published. So they define 6 broad categories of these competencies. I think you mentioned already some of them. So first of all, the cognitive competencies, so problem solving, critical thinking, we heard this. Interpersonal, the communication, very important, emotional intelligence, collaboration with other people, intrapersonal, so the persistence, the agile mindset, adaptability to the new world of work and to the technology. Then self-regulated learning. The 5th one, the citizenship, so intercultural communication, you mentioned it as well. And last but not least, the 6th one, so the ICT, the digital literacy. So that what we hear now about these soft skills, transversal competencies. But actually the ideas that, that learners should acquire this kind of transversal competencies besides the technical knowledge is not really new. So also, we already talked about this in the 70s, to acquire these competencies to adapt to a changing world. What is also interesting to note that in these 6 categories, actually, there is no really new competencies that appear, except maybe the digital part, so ICT, the digital literacy, so the ICT. And I think what is also changing is the speed of change. And I agree with the speakers before, so AI can not replace, but of course support all these competencies and these processes. What I also would like to emphasize, we talk about competence, but yeah, what is really a competence? And yeah, in Switzerland, I'm at least in vocational education and training, so the definition of a competence is very strongly linked to the labor market. So we define actually a person who is competent is that he or she deals successfully with a work situation. And this with knowledge, with skills, and also with attitudes. And I think there is all these competencies we mentioned are also included there. Yeah, so very very simple example, the profession in Switzerland of a hairdresser. So one hairdresser, yes. So one competence is to color the hair of a client. So you need a knowledge of this. You need to apply the knowledge, maybe use some tools, some technology as well. And then you have to have the attitudes. We talked about communication, but communication as that, I think, is not a competence. You have to apply it in your specific context. So to communicate with the client, communication with also social media, and to give recommendations to the client. So yeah, just to summarize, for us it's also important to have, when we talk about competencies, to have this strong link with the labor market and with this work situation.
Thank you. So thank you for reminding us not to panic. I definitely echo the sentiment. First of all, the change, yes, it's fast, but we definitely need the basic skills, like you mentioned, the critical thinking, analytics, etc., to be able to come to a certain point where we then exercise the leadership, the empathy, the trust, and the dealing in a crisis environment and stuff. So it's like there's a certain set of skills that you need to be having, and then build all the other skills sort of on top of that. So now the more difficult question. Given that there's that uncertainty, and given that certain competencies that we're defining, like the followership of Caesar example that I.B. Canham gave, how should we think about training and development? How do we train and develop the young talents, the leaders, and how can companies partner with institutions like XVIII, like universities, to enable this training and development to happen? So this time, again, maybe I'll change the order and start with you, Leszek. Is that okay?
Perfect. Thank you very much. I will start again with our obligation as, let's call it senior managers or industry, to take responsibility towards our young population. Because we are shaping and somehow co-shaping the future, yes?
Yeah.
But who will be in charge of the future? Young people who are here, yes? Those who are in universities. The first interaction, I'm referring again to my company and myself, the first interaction, the young people who are joining the labor force or the companies is critically important, because we are somehow shaping them for the future. If they will find wrong examples, they can continue with the wrong examples. That's why it's so important, this difference between boss and leader, because we are shaping, if you want, of course, and we have to do it, we are shaping future leaders. I like quotes. And one of my favorite is what Mr. Einstein was saying. He said, I have no special skills or talents. I have permanent passion for curiosity. He was curious. And I think curiosity is extremely important. As a companies, we should work very closely, as an industry in general, it's not only Nestle, I'm referring to in general industry, to work with universities as much as possible. This is what we do, by the way, as Nestle in Turkey. We have some leadership programs with the leading universities here in Turkey. We have something which is called Nestle Needs Youth. It's a global program established like 10 years ago by, in those times it was our head of the Zone Europe, currently the CEO of Nestle, Laurent Frex. We touched like 5 million young students around the world. Initially it was planned for Zone Europe, but it went around the world. Within Nestle Turkey, we have Nestle Leadership Management Trainees programs, again with universities. We have another, it's not only related to head office, by the way, it happens as well in all our factories, and we have here four factories for the moment. From time to time, I have a breakfast with the students. We walk along both forums and we talk about business and we talk about leadership and we talk about future. Again, if I have a choice between PowerPoint presentations, etc., I prefer to go with the students and to talk about their future. Do they have easy life now? Completely not. Our lives, and we can say, yeah, technology is helping, etc., etc. No, we were mentioned today that artificial intelligence is analyzing CVs, yes, and probably being focused on some keywords. It's moving, removing, etc. Again, I will refer, I think, during the day to my personal examples. I have 4 kids, 3 students. The last one, I mean the last from the who finished university, he was refused by 200 companies without single thank you. Why? Even if someone is using artificial intelligence, this artificial intelligence should say, thank you very much, dear candidate, maybe in the future we'll come to you. I checked this with Nestle, we are answering, even if this is chatbot behind. There were 3 companies who offered him interviews, but 2 of them refused him despite his education in 2 great universities, despite having a dual master in finance management and in big data, by the way. You know what was the missing point? You don't have from 2 to 3 years of experience. How you, as a just graduated, how you can have 3 years of experience when you are 22 or 23? No, this is like a food for thought to all of us. This is why working together, I mean the education systems and the companies, we need to really open up, because we have an army of very smart, well-equipped, intelligent, young people who are joining the market and they are lost a bit. This is why all the initiatives which are helping, to shape the future leaders, just by doing. I'm fan of one of the sport brand who says, just do it. Yeah. Because I love when things are happening. Yes, it's I assume as well, there's, the panel is as well kind of we will talk, dispute, etc., but I really count that something will happen afterwards, yes. Yeah. And a young gentleman, you can present yourself if you wish.
I have a question actually. At
your
presentation, I have a question.
Okay.
We'll take it at the end, okay? Yeah.
And he can comment as well what he's expecting from this audience, from us, because we can, I'm open to talk. We just have a selfie together. This is how I see it. It's not a matter when, but it's how.
Yeah.
Now.
And I love that quote too, by the way, the Einstein quote. And it's to me still not entirely clear how you teach someone to be curious, because some people are innately curious and some people grow into it. But if I haven't cracked the code on really, how do you really teach someone to be curious? So if you guys have any perspectives on that, I'd really love to hear it. But anyway, so maybe, would you like to go next or?
Okay, yeah.
Okay,
Thank
yeah,
you,
yeah, Eric.
So we talk about training, and as guest from Switzerland, I would like to share briefly the Swiss experience with you. Yeah, we have, for example, the CEO of UBS, biggest bank in Switzerland, the president of the chocolates, Lindt and Sprüngli. We have example of the Minister of Education and Economic Affairs. And yeah, the question is, okay, what do they have in common? Yeah, the answer is they did all a vocational education and training. They started their career with an apprenticeship. So that would be my part of the answer for training. So in my opinion, the vocational education and training provides the competencies that the labor market needs. And these examples show also that this can serve as a basis actually also to have a career and to act or to end as a CEO of
what kind of vocational training was it? Could you give us a bit more example on the apprenticeship, or was it just apprenticing in their companies, or was it at like actually getting a training?
Yeah, so they are different. So they had a commercial apprenticeship, for example. The minister had an apprenticeship in agriculture. So there are different pathways. Okay. And actually in Switzerland, 2/3 of the young people after compulsory school, they are not going to high school, but they choose the path of vocational education and training. And yeah, to answer to your question, you have the 250 professions that are recognized. And there are all types of apprenticeship. So I mentioned commercial, healthcare, ICT, but also the electrician, the plumber, the butcher. So all kind of professions that are regulated on a national level. And we think also that this dual VET is also one of the reasons for the low youth unemployment rate in Switzerland, and also for the high innovation capacity. The ambassador mentioned it this morning, 13 years in a row that Switzerland is the most innovative country. But this kind of training, so vocational education and training, means let the companies, the professional associations, the business, they have a leading role in this system. So, of course, they provide the training to the apprentices, the apprenticeship positions. They pay a small salary to the apprentices. But what is then really important, they define the curricula of the professions. So they define what competencies should be taught during the duration of the training program. And that's why at the end, the apprentices, the graduates, they have the competencies that are required by the labor market. So I think for the VET graduates at this level, they don't have to write 200, 300 applications then to find a good, decent position. Yeah, so I'm really, I'm a fan, I'm a supporter of this vocational education and training, and this collaboration, or this public-private partnership, so this collaboration between the companies and the VET schools. And yeah, I think this could be also one area of collaboration, but maybe we can talk about this later. Thank you.
Who initiates the contact there? Is it the company or you guys? Like who comes to who to initiate that collaboration typically? For the, like when you say you work with those companies, right? You do partnerships. Where does the demand come from? From the company, or do you knock on their doors and say, let's go and create a vocational education program for your company?
Okay, so it's not a VET program for the company, it's a VET program for a profession, for an occupation.
Okay.
So hairdresser, plumber, electrician, and so on.
Okay, got it.
And this is recognized nationwide by the ministry.
Okay.
And the business has a leading role, so they are actually the owner of the curricula. Huh?
Okay.
Yeah. And then when it comes to the apprenticeship, it's really it's a kind of a market. So it's supply and demand, and the young people they apply, and then they have interviews. They are selected, and the company can select them.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And last but not least, so the companies, to answer to your question, the companies are not obliged to be part of these apprenticeship training programs. So they do not have to train the apprentices. But about a quarter of all the companies in Switzerland, they do it because they see a benefit. They want to ensure their future staff with the required competencies. And they, last but not least, they also have a financial benefit because they pay a small salary to their apprentices, but at the end of the 3 or 4 years, there is a return on investment because the apprentices are already productive also. They are integrated in the production process.
Thank you, Eric, for that perspective. Aybike Hanım, now over to you.
I think it's my turn to say I don't know what to add. Yes, but inspired by your personal experience sharing, I was thinking how I was promoted while I was a management consultant. Like you said, you are not really in doing PowerPoints. You are not really you don't like to talk through PowerPoints. But what we did was basically PowerPoints. So every day we used to get some information, analyze it, and put it into PowerPoints. And I was really good at it. So I was all promoted very fast. And then I was on a fast track because I was, really good at, telling people exactly what to do to other people, what to put on those PowerPoint slides, and check their work, right? And they wanted to make me a manager level consultant where I had to lead a bigger group, sell projects, communicate with the clients, right? And that is actually a general way of promotion and leader emergence within our organizations. What they do in their current levels, their performance on the task in their current levels, actually we take that as a base to promote them to the next level, which actually expects a whole new set of skills, right? So in the end, we know from, for instance, Google tried it, we really, really, really need middle-level managers. They are the backbones of organizations. From the C-suite, the strategy, and everything that has been decided as the vision of the organization has to translate to the lower echelons through the middle levels, or even the lower level leaders, managers, right? But even though we spent billions in leadership development programs, I think like 84 billion only in the US yearly, we do not really give the people in the lower level or the middle level management the quality leadership development programs. We cannot provide them the access to the development programs that actually improve the skills that I have mentioned, right? We can give them, analytic problem solving workshops, but we do not have the resources to give them private one-to-one or a small group, trainings in how to build trust, resilience, because that is very expensive. But now with the AI, hopefully there will be a way to improve that. Now the traditional, limitations of the leadership development programs is the scalability, right? You have one trainer, they can interact with so many people at once, and they are very expensive. So, and they cannot have the time and the space to teach you the theory, but then also allow you to experience it and implement it, apart from 1 or 2 case studies perhaps, or role-playing simulations, right? And that is not very a realistic experience. But we know that these soft skills the abilities to connect with people. For instance, having the skill to have hard talks, which has been picked up by Harvard Business School very recently. They are creating workshops around it right now because we realize that one of the main functions of a leader is to have the hard talks with their employees when there is something going wrong with their lives, when they feel burned out, when they feel demotivated. How do you deal with that, right? But you have to provide them a safe space. You have to give them the ability to practice in a low-risk environment. And we have to customize it. Even though I definitely agree that evolutionarily, human beings are cognitively, socially have a lot in common. But again, there are stories like that. For instance, the CEO of Nissan going to Japan for the first CEO of Renault when they were buying Nissan, right? He goes to Japan and gives the way to the ladies first when they were getting into the elevator, and everybody was shocked and everybody stops, right? Because what is a very gentlemanly move in the West is a huge overstep in Japan, because they believe that it is dangerous for someone to go into a room first. So if you say that ladies should go first, you are like saying, take the risk for me. So in essence, although we have these fundamental basics of mechanisms the same, there are differences. So it needs to be contextualized. It needs to be adapted to the specific problems of the organization, of the time, right? Of where that organization and that group is in that time. What are their problems? So I hope that with AI, we will be able to create simulations of leadership situations where we will be able to go directly into the psychological roots of the hardships that leaders face when they are dealing with day-to-day acts of motivating, creating a vision, and creating an identity and trust. There are psychological roots to those problems, and we can target those roots with replicable, scalable manner with the use of AI. Hopefully that is my wish for the near future.
So approaching it in a very scientific way.
Yes.
Thank you. Yes, Leszek, what's your perspective on this? You already, yes, no?
I gave my perspective. I can repeat myself.
Oh, sorry. Oh, okay. That's true. Sorry about that. Now we go to the third question. Okay, so maybe we start with Eric on this one. What can Turkish leaders learn from Switzerland? You already gave a few examples, actually. And how can we increase collaboration in education and training between Switzerland and Turkey?
Okay, so first the University SWUVET is quite active in international collaboration. So since 10 years we welcomed 260 delegations from abroad that have been interested in VT. We are also providing expertise in more than 50 international cooperation projects, and in these projects the focus is always a bit different. So it's the training of teachers and the trainers, it's about the curriculum development, about the systemic approach. But what is always important is the link to the private sector and the involvement of the companies. And there may be just two ideas. So the first one maybe to, create kind of a cluster in Turkey of Swiss companies, of Turkish companies, to enhance the collaboration between the business and the schools, the VT schools, so that the graduates from the schools, they have the competencies that the companies need. So maybe this could be one area to be explored, also with the help of Swiss Embassy and the Chamber of Commerce. And the second one, so yesterday actually had an interesting, very interesting day. Visited the Max Technology Center and the Chamber of Industry. And I think there we identified also some ideas for partnership, for collaborating, and especially in the context also of the exchange of teachers, of staff. And there is one concrete step now we will take further. It's the application for a common project for the European Union.
Okay, great, thank you. Who wants to go next now? Aybike?
I don't know if I can say ladies first in this.
It's okay. I think, yeah, let's go with ladies first.
Okay, so we are not in Japan. So
Yeah, we're not in Japan. It's not risky. It's not risky.
I think that one of the points about collaborations between two cultures is, of course, very straightforwardly the cross-cultural learning. Right? Each culture has its own strengths, has its own soft points. I think that as the Turkish side, we can learn more about this, the precision and perhaps the innovation, the quality control, and this type of skills and important points in our business processes. But I think on the other hand, dealing with uncertainty, high uncertainty, is also a skill, and some cultures have to, I think, adapt better to it. With the economic shocks, the political shocks, and everything that has been going on, the businesses and the leaders here had more practice with more uncertainty in a way. So I think there is a lesson for, there is a more balanced approach to learning from each other. But apart from all this, like a more nuance between each culture, I think what we should be learning as as all cultures around the world is to be able to integrate different perspectives and different cultural nuances or vulnerabilities to our roots. Because, like I said in the first question, we need the perceptions, the perspectives of different individuals. And I don't have to tell anybody that we are increasingly becoming more multicultural in our groups. The distances are not really important anymore. Even in academia, which is, very stoic, I think, you used to have to get into a department to work with a famous professor, for instance, to walk the same halls with them, but you don't have to anymore. You can catch them on Twitter. Right? But this applies to all aspects of innovation, of how we think, how we develop each other. So in that sense, I think that through collaboration, whatever the collaboration is, through vocational training or through partnerships between different companies, what we can learn is to pay attention to what makes us different and how that contributes to our group as something to enrich our processes, our way of thinking, our way of reaction. That is.
Thank you. Thank you. And I like your perspectives a lot. So,
as a fan of education and collective intelligence, I strongly believe in the kind of a mutual benefits. Following the presentation of Mr. Ambassador, saying that Switzerland is like 12 or 13 times in the row #1 in the world in terms of innovations. Yes, it's something wow. And if you blend this with the amazing leadership skills of Turkish leaders and Turkish people, you can create something amazing. Turkey is focused on innovations, yes? And Switzerland is leading innovations. It's a perfect match. And as you said today, nowadays, with this digital world, you can connect easily, between each other. Again, Switzerland as example of this vocational education. There is probably the lowest unemployment among the youth in the world because of the education system. Means if those two nations, countries can connect somehow in exchanging things, Turkey can bring this disruptive leadership to Switzerland. Switzerland is innovation mindset, etc. When the moment you blend, we can create really perfect leaders, or for Turkey or for Switzerland. This is how I see it. And again, as an employee of Nestle, probably if you read carefully CVs of some top managers of Turkish companies, you will find a lot of them who used to work for a Swiss company called Nestle. Means we are as well somehow exchanging not only with our employees, but as well with our partners, business partners. The moment you invest, you are coming as well with a new technology. For example, we opened like 1.5 years ago the Nestle Health and Science company, where we produce first time, and this is only the factory, or it was only the factory in Turkey, producing enteral nutrition for the special patients. This is really highest top technology to feed people who are really affected by diseases, etc. We bring here the modern technology, and we develop plenty of our suppliers to follow this modern technology. Now we are building another factory again, and again this is like a learning, developing, coaching, and upgrading some activities within the country as well. Means education is something which is absolutely priceless. It's priceless. That's how I see it. And artificial intelligence in this context is as well the perfect story. We are using artificial intelligence since 2 years. We have Nest GPT, and we are using this globally, just to again, for learning purposes, for education purposes within the organization, for efficiencies as well. Here in Turkey, we have it. We have on the top our local AI called Odin, which is freeing up completely HR from explaining and translating Nestle internal vocabularies, because it is done by artificial intelligence. Now there is no, it's accelerating. The same in the factories. Again, it's related to machine learning, which is related to preventive maintenance, for example, safety. In one of the factories, we're using artificial intelligence to keep our employees safe. Because the artificial intelligence is analyzing, of course, it's done with the accordance and with the agreement of our trade unions as well, analyzing people behaviors, and then it's like pointing out all the hotspots just to avoid and to keep our colleagues safe. It means education is a king. And when you can combine, those two cultures, Swiss, Turkish, and blend it, then, we can create beautiful things. Or you can create beautiful things. That's how I see it.
Thank you. I really like the perspective on bringing Switzerland's innovative capabilities and Turkish leaders, dedication, hard work, resilience because of all the crisis management, etc. If we were really able to combine that, we could create the Voltron, probably for those of us. Yes. Thank you, dear panelists. Should we open the floor to some questions? Yeah, we have some time. I think we have 5 minutes. Okay, all right, okay. So.
Thank you actually for letting me ask this question. So during your speech you mentioned that...
Can we get the microphone if possible?
Is it working? Yes. So thank you again for letting me ask this question. Firstly, I want to say thank you for being here and inviting us at the same time. So during your speech, you mentioned that world is such a dynamic place, and for me, for us, for younger generations, actually, for university students, it can be extremely challenging to make the right choice, make the best choice, actually, Because just like ChatGPT, which we talked this morning, we are fed up with lots of data, lots of things, and at the end of the day, this may just end up with a mind confusion. So my question is I think it's a bit personal for Mr. Leszek, but I want you to answer one by one if it's possible for you, because I'm also curious about your perspective. So I want you to just simply play a game, okay? So we will just basically switch places. I want myself to become the Nestle CEO, and I want you to become me. So how would you react? How would you consider the future of this country and the future of this career opportunities in Turkey, in different enterprises? Actually, how would you react? What will your do's and don'ts be at the same time? I hope my question is clear. Thank you.
It's clear. Thank you very much. First of all, I am privileged to be CEO of Nestle, within Nestle, but it was not my ultimate goal. I was not obsessed. When I have interactions with young people very often, and the famous Generation Z, yes, it's like you feel the rush. I need to prove immediately to my peers, I need to prove to everyone that in 3 years I will be CEO of the company. It will not happen. In my case, it took 24 years. My daughter says you are the boomer, but I am like a middle-aged millennial, I'm calling myself this way. I was not obsessed. And this is my advice all the time to young people like you are, to colleagues, saying, guys, don't be obsessed. But at the same time, let's have a dream and go for it. And how to go for it? Be the best in everything you do, but do it with a passion. I do things with a passion. If I will not feel passion in everything I do, I will not do it. Means my advice is always like that. If you don't feel passion, don't do it. But if you go for something, go 120%. Means and you guys here, you have amazing the background and preparation, because you are disruptive leadership by DNA. Because you are dealing with so many dynamic situations that, you know, it makes you really resilient, as we said, as we discussed here, yes? Means be curious, be brave, dare to learn, and dare to dream, and go for it. Everything is possible. I was sales representative, by the way, in Poland. I joined Nestle as a sales representative. And 6 years later, I was sales director. I didn't know nothing about sales. But my passion to customers, to consumers, to just doing my job with a passion and right. It paid off. Maybe this is too old, maybe this is old-fashioned, etc. But this is what I'm repeating to my kids, to everyone. Be the best in everything you do, without being obsessed about money and about titles. I am not driven by money and titles. I know it maybe sounds strange, but it's true. And I'm myself, I like myself, because then every day, all of us, we see, you see every day your boss. Yeah? In the bathroom, you have a mirror, I assume, and you see your boss. That's the person who says what you should do. And this person is deciding what will be your attitude today. Skills you can learn, but attitude is not given. This is why for the companies it's sometimes better to have people with a great attitude than with amazing skills and whatever. This is how I see it. I don't know if the answer is, but this is...
Totally fine.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I've never gone to this. First of all, thanks a lot for your presentation. It's really perfect. I'm not listening here just a businessman. I'm listening here just like a father. I have 2 daughters. And thank you. I agree with you that we need to improve more curious generation, and also we need to encourage leadership skills, especially for the female generation, daughters. I would like to listen here about your expertise. You managed several countries, you were cluster lead, you work thousands of people. What's the development need or gap of Turkish young generation in your company? What's the most important, in big picture? You can say just one skill.
Be brave and vocal. Because what I noticed, it's a kind of a hierarchy-driven environment. I'm transparent. It's like when I'm like a different person. I can say I have 2 colleagues from Nestle here, and I had discussion. I came here like 3 years ago, and I had discussion with my previous HR director, and she said, when you came here, and you were so open, inviting everyone to come to your office, I thought that this is not right for Turkey, for Nestle Turkey. But then it works. Means you have to be consistent. Guys, you have amazing potential, but you need to open up. You shouldn't be stressed with the hierarchy, with Farouk Bey, Leszek Bey, etc. You need to be vocal because, again, I like quotes. And one of the quotes I like is Steve Jobs, who said, we don't hire smart people to tell them what to do. We hire smart people because they should tell us what to do. And this is my logic as well. I'm inviting all the time young people to come to me, to talk, to be open, etc. You know, the success rate, it's growing, but it's not 100%. Means if I meet 50 people and I'm encouraging them to come to me and talk, I have something on my desk. It's written, please do disturb. Very often people are coming and they say, sorry. Why you are sorry? Because it's, please don't disturb. I said, no, this is please do disturb. This is what we have kind of a mental barriers, means remove those barriers and be brave, be open to share your ideas, to share what you believe. In my case, because I'm not so bossy, I really admire this and I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Be brave, be vocal.
Can I add to, I think for women, Turkish women, yeah, you were going to say the same thing, it's even more important. We're not, I mean, yes, what you said is true for everyone, but even more important for the Turkish
and
women.
The moment, you know, people are opening up, you see how they are amazing, how they are flourishing, how much ideas they have, and because they don't feel judged. They have a freedom to make mistakes, you know. I'm sharing my mistakes as well. So who wants to know my mistakes? I made several mistakes within the company. Still within the frame of compliances, yes, compliance. But you know, it's nothing wrong to make mistakes because you want to do things, yes?
I've got as well a question here. For three of the panelists, I'm just going aside here a bit. So first, IBK, you mentioned in the beginning about transactional and transformational leadership. So if we shape the future of the workforce, how would you see that managers in the middle will disappear, which are more transactional, right? Following up on KPIs and everything else. Everyone will be a leader. How would you see that ripple and trickle down to the workforce? Would that be as well a different type? How do you see that shaping in the future? And secondly, you were also talking about, you know, the training, and we can't train everyone. Where does mentorship come in there? Mentorship in terms of reverse mentorship and the other side of mentorship. How vast can we use that facility and modality? That's for you, IBK. For you, Leszek, I really appreciate you have got Youth for Nestle for Youth. And CVs, yes, I'm doing a lot of career coaching as well, and I know people feel imposter syndrome when they send 500 CVs. So you've got a great program. How can this be replicated across other industries to collaborate? This is what we're talking about, collaboration. So to even open up further, and how would you see the future of applying for jobs in that light? And for Eric, I'm based in Geneva, I live in Geneva, my son grew up in Geneva. It's about vocation, strong word, but sometimes it doesn't work. So what does Swiss government or the education system do? Because I know my son had lots of difficulties to even further reinforce how they can follow up on their vocation, because they are lost. They don't know all this all the time. Specifically, the new young generation is really not decisive enough. What else can be delivered there? Not only going into a profession, but apart from profession, a safe space where they can try fast, fail fast, and learn fast. Thank you so much.
Wow, 3 questions. Well, let's start.
Okay, I think I will start. Two great questions. Thank you for asking and allowing me to elaborate. About the middle managers disappearing, actually, it had been the idea for some time in the literature and the transactions between the leadership, literature and practice. But what happened was Google tried it, right? The CTO of Google and the engineers of Google said that we are some of the greatest minds in the world. Why do we need someone to tell us and control what we are doing? We have been hired to do what we do best. So they fired all the middle managers, and the CTO had to direct, manage or lead around 36, 40 engineers. But his job was to create the strategy, the higher level view, right? The roadmap. But what happened was that even if you have the smartest, most capable and passionate people in the world working for you, they will still have hard moments. They will still want to bounce off ideas. And they figured out that they needed to hire more engineers. They needed to go over 120 engineers. So what was going to happen then, right? The CTO was already canceled out all day, every day, trying to react to everyone, but it was impossible. So they had to bring back the middle managers. So long story short, I don't think that middle-level managers are going anywhere. If anything, we are realizing that they are really, really crucial in an organization's success. Exactly for the reason that I had tried to explain in the first question. Because we need people to create this trust and identity, belonging to a group. And you cannot belong to a group of 30,000 people. It is very hard. There is this scientific number for it, the Dunbar number, which had been based on the, all the mammals and all the, anthropological evidence. There is a limit to the group size that we can feel close to, that we feel like we have a common vision and a common goal. So in that sense, the middle managers are here to stay, I would say. The second question about the leadership development and mentorship and reverse mentorship, I thank you for mentioning also the reverse mentorship. It is an important point, but I think we are all, familiar with the 360 degrees feedback and all that stuff by now. But I don't know if the both sides are valued or influential in decision making equally yet. But like you said, we are looking up to the leader figures that we see, that we have the luck or the unluck, let's say, of being exposed to. But I think that is an immensely important part of learning how to react to leadership situations from someone if you see them as a leader, because being a follower is a self-identification process. I have to say that I am following that person. Otherwise, no one can force me to have that, relationship with a leader, right? So if you are lucky enough to have a person like that in your life that you look up to, then it's an important learning opportunity. But unfortunately, a lot of the people do not have that. We have a lot of, like bosses, right? Just tell you what to do and not really lead in that sense. So